In 480 BC, the Persian army marched into Athens, climbed the Acropolis, and burned the city's sacred temples to the ground. For decades, the charred ruins sat at the center of the city, a daily, smoldering reminder of their near defeat. Eventually, the Athenian statesman Pericles decided to clear the rubble. He initiated a massive public works project to replace the lost structures, building on a scale that signaled Athens' reach over the entire Mediterranean. Behind the marble columns and religious statues, the Parthenon housed a heavily fortified bank vault. This inner chamber, the Opus Thotimus, was built to hold the combined gold and silver reserves of the Delian League. By placing the treasury inside the temple, the city concentrated the financial and military resources of its empire in a single sacred location. The construction functioned as a physical manifestation of Athenian geopolitical and financial power. To project that power, the architects Iktinos and Kallikrates designed a structure that appears perfectly linear. Yet, if you measure the blocks today, you will find almost zero perfectly straight lines. They knew that tall, perfectly straight pillars appear to thin out in the middle and bow inward when viewed from a distance. To counteract this, the builders employed a technique called entasis. Each massive Doric column was carved with a slight outward swell, thicker in the middle than at the top, and tilted slightly inward toward the center of the building. The floor itself performs a similar trick. A perfectly flat, level foundation of that size would create the optical illusion of sagging in the middle under the weight of the roof. So the base of the Parthenon actually bulges upward by about 10.3 centimeters over its 70-meter length. The spacing of all these elements follows a strict mathematical harmony. If you compare the height of the facade to its width, or the diameter of a column to the empty space beside it, the measurements consistently boil down to a precise ratio of 4:9. These adjustments allowed the builders to achieve perceived symmetry from any angle. They utilized a level of engineering precision that signaled Athens's technological reach to any rival entering the city. Almost 1,000 years later, the Roman Empire closed pagan temples across its territories. The massive gold and ivory statue of Athena was looted and hauled away to Constantinople. To keep the building in use, the locals converted it into a Christian church. They reoriented the entire layout to face east, walled up the spaces between the inner columns, and knocked out the eastern entrance to build an apse. In 1450s, the Ottoman Empire conquered Athens. They removed the Christian altar, whitewashed painted walls, and erected a soaring minaret right out of the southwestern corner, turning the ancient temple into an Islamic mosque. The Parthenon survived late antiquity and the Middle Ages because it was useful. It absorbed the identity and the architecture of whoever held the city. That practical utility eventually led to its ruin. During the Marian War in 1687, a Venetian army laid siege to the Acropolis. The defending Ottoman forces decided to use the fortified walls of the Parthenon to shelter their community and stockpile their gunpowder. On September 26th, a Venetian mortar round fired from a nearby hill crashed directly through the ancient roof, instantly igniting the magazine inside. The blast blew out the center of the building. The marble roof disintegrated, the inner walls collapsed into rubble, and 14 massive outer columns crashed to the ground. 300 people died in the explosion. Over a century later, a British ambassador named Thomas Bruce, the 7th Earl of Elgin, arrived. Claiming he had permission from the local Ottoman authorities, Elgin's agents spent over a decade hacking away and removing roughly half of the surviving marble sculptures from the ruins. Those pieces were shipped back to London, where they sit today in the British Museum. The legality of that extraction remains the center of a bitter, ongoing geopolitical dispute between the UK and Greece over who rightfully owns the artifacts. Between the explosion and the extraction, the monument was reduced to a shattered, empty skeleton. The very empires that utilized the building had nearly erased it from the skyline. When an independent Greek state finally gained control of Athens in 1832, they immediately set about reclaiming the site. They demolished the minaret, cleared the rubble, and stripped away centuries of medieval and Ottoman additions to expose the classical core underneath. But early attempts to fix the damage actually made it worse. 19th century restorers bolted the fallen blocks back together using untreated iron pins. Over the decades, those pins absorbed moisture, rusted, and expanded, violently cracking the ancient marble from the inside out. Today, a massive multi-decade restoration project is undoing those past mistakes. Teams are slowly dismantling the structure, replacing the rusted iron with non-corrosive titanium, and using 3D computer modeling to figure out exactly where each scattered fragment originally belonged. The archaeologists follow a strict set of rules. They reassemble as many original pieces as possible, and they only carve fresh blocks of Pentelic marble when it is absolutely necessary to keep the building standing. The project aims to stabilize the ruins and preserve the current state of the masonry, leaving every historical scar visible. The Parthenon has outlived every empire that tried to claim it. Its endurance relies on the burns, the missing sculptures, and the patchwork marble, leaving a physical record of human conflict and the resilience of civilization itself.